Good morning and welcome to the next lesson of our English learning. Today we're going to be continuing our story. So the way we're going to start this is by looking back at our plan and just refreshing our ideas in our memories and in our minds. Now remember, a plan is there to help signpost us through the story and help us keep on track. We don't want to go off on tangents because that's when we start to lose the quality of writing. By having the plan, it allows us to free up some of our thinking space to think about more exciting word choices, sentence structures, and just add in extra bits of information that help the reader. Remember, when we write, we are writing for a reader. We aren't just writing for the sake of it. Your work should be read, and we want to make sure that the reader doesn't get too bored reading it. So there's the plan, my plan. Use this time to look at your plan. And then we're going to look on proofreading the story. So the first things we do when we look for proofreading is, have I used full sentence punctuation? That's full stops, capital letters, question marks, exclamation marks, commas in the right place. Just have you used correct punctuation? Then we're going to look for correct spellings, and then have we grouped related ideas and events into paragraphs, which we can see we've got 2 paragraphs there, and we followed our planned structure, so we have followed a lot of we have grouped a lot of the ideas into paragraphs. So to begin with, here's my story. Outside, the air was cold and heavy. A blustery wind hissed through the skeletal trees, warning of the frost and throwing snow against the windows of Rudlin Primary School. So straight away I've seen a mistake. Rudlin Primary School. It's a name of a place, so that's a proper noun. Proper nouns begin with capital letters. Now don't forget, the primary school part is actually still part of the name. The playground, normally full of life and laughter, was an angry ocean of frozen white waves guarded by ice soldiers hanging from the roof. Missing full stop. Inside, the radiators were warm, the windows steamed, and the lights on the tree danced to the merry music. Poppy peered. That doesn't quite look right. Peered. That's more like a pier like Brighton Pier or a pier you walk on by the seaside. So we need to change that spelling in a minute. So Poppy peered through the window and sighed before turning and staring resentfully at her teacher. She scanned the rest of the class and noticed the yawns, the boredom in their eyes, and the desperation to be out in the snow. That's not how you spell surely. Surely the class deserved better than another nativity practice. So I'm just going to make a few edits. And there we go. So we've got Rudlin Primary School has a capital letter. I have the full stop after roof. I've written peered, spelled peered correctly and surely correctly. Now I'm also going to think about, when I proofread and edit, have I used the features we've been learning? So have I used opposing description of outside and in? Well, I think in the first paragraph you can see I have, with the outside being cold and heavy, being very blustery, really windy and just not very welcoming. Whereas inside it's nice and warm, everything seems to be calm. Even though the children are bored, they're still calm. Okay, have I used the power of 3? So that's sentences of 3. We have a blustery wind hissed through the skeletal trees, warning of the frost and throwing snow against the windows of Rudlin Primary School. That's 3 things we've listed together. Inside, the radiators were warm, the windows steamed, and the lights on the tree danced to the merry music. There's another sentence of 3. She scanned the rest of the class and noticed the yawns, the boredom in their eyes, and the desperation to be out in the snow. Another power of 3, sentence of 3. So we've used the antonyms. We've used warm and cold. So in the first sentence, there's cold straight away. Outside, the air was cold and heavy, whereas inside, the radiators were warm. So we've used antonyms there. So have we used speech? Well, we haven't used any speech yet, so we don't need to see if we've used speech effectively. That will come later in the story. So moving on to the next part of the story, we've written the first 2 sections. That means we're going to move on to the third section, which is when one character warns the other to be careful what they wish for. Now you may have already written this yesterday, but what I would say is writing a whole story in one section will not lead to the best quality story. It's better to break it up, take your time, and write higher quality rather than write pages. So Poppy's going to snatch the goblet out of Brad's hand and look at it. She's so excited, tells Brad exactly what she wants to wish for. Brad warns her against it, as what would they do all day? They wouldn't be able to see their friends or learn. So remember, with a plan, you stick very closely to it, but it doesn't have to be word for word perfect. So there's the original one, and here's how I started mine. Angrily, Brad snatched at the goblet laying on the backstage floor and scowled at it. After calming down and realizing how silly he looked, he relaxed his shoulders and rubbed some of the dust away. With each rub, the metal glowed brighter. Poppy grabbed the goblet from Brad's hand and excitedly began to rub at the remaining dust with her sleeve. A sudden gasp left her mouth as she realized something was etched into the metal. It looked like a list of names, but what was written next to it? Looking closer, she saw it was a list of wishes. This was perfect. So I've tried to build up that relationship between Brad and Sarah. Poppy, sorry. Sarah's from the original story. Between Brad and Poppy. And just showing that Sarah seems a bit more impulsive because she grabs it and excitedly starts rubbing it. Whereas Brad, he's more of a reserved character. So I continued. Brad, look, I think this goblet grants wishes, Poppy said, her heart beating hard against her chest like a drum. I could wish for anything. Money, power, no school. So straight away not straight away, but we've had Poppy say what she could wish for. Now I think money and power too, that most people would wish for, maybe superpowers, and a lot of children would probably wish for no school. But without school, there'd be no learning, and he wouldn't get to see me either. So I continued my story. What a load of cobblers, Brad snorted. The only thing that is good for is breaking toes of unsuspecting children. Anyway, why would you want no school? Life will get pretty boring pretty quickly without seeing me. You better put it back quick before Miss Stickleworth comes and thinks we are playing with it. So again, Brad doesn't believe what's happening. He doesn't believe it's true. He's more sensible, calm, and rational. Poppy's smile quickly faded. She knew he was right. The last thing you wanted was for Miss Stickleworth to catch you not paying attention to one of her rehearsals. This was the most important part of her job, or so she liked to tell the class. So again, we learn a bit about Miss Stickleworth again. It doesn't sound like she's very forgiving, and it sounds like she's quite strict. And the children are a little bit intimidated by her. So then we move on to the next section, in which the character who wants to make the wish ignores the other one and makes the wish, but nothing happens yet. So Poppy ignores Brad and makes the wishes anyway, but nothing happens except for her name and the wish appears on the goblet. The school day finishes with another boring rehearsal of the Nativity. So here's mine. Poppy sighed. What a waste, she thought to herself as she climbed the small stepladder by the shelves. Before placing the goblet back on the top shelf, she quickly gave the goblet one last rub whilst Brad wasn't looking, and whispered her wish. For schools to close forever. A name began to appear on the base of the goblet. It was hers. She nearly fell back off the stepladder in a mix of fear and excitement. The afternoon seemed to last an eternity for Poppy. Her eyes rarely left the clock, her feet rarely stopped tapping, and she forgot her cues for props several times. Brad questioned why she was so distracted, but each time she just giggled and told him to wait and see. When would it happen? When would her wish come true? So again, I've put in a few questions there to engage the reader and make them want to read on to find out what comes next. Now remember, they are rhetorical questions as well, so they don't actually need answers. The end-of-day bell cut through her daydream and startled Poppy back to the present. She desperately ran and gathered her belongings before running straight out of the school gate and heading straight for home. She was so excited to get home, change clothes, and play in the snow that she forgot about her wish. So here, she's made the wish, nothing's happened, and as children do. She's almost forgotten about it straight away. So the next bit is the wish comes true, but it goes wrong. There are consequences to the wish. So here we go. Bursting through the front door and shaking off the snow from her coat, she made her way straight to her room. Her dad stopped her halfway up the stairs and told her she should come to the lounge. She so wanted to get changed and be in the snow, but knew Dad wouldn't stop her unless it was something important. So here was trying to bring in how she would come across it, because not many children go home and just sit down and watch the news. So I thought, how can we do it? So by adding her dad, I thought that's a good way of doing it. So on the TV, there was a pointy-nosed man wearing an obscure suit and talking like he had something blocking his nose. Poppy could hardly make out what he was saying, but caught the headline underneath. Government decides schools are to close. Poppy saw the headline and let out a shriek that almost shattered the windows. Her wish had come true. She hurried up the stairs, grabbed her phone and called Brad straight away. So there we go. The wish has been made. The wish has been granted. Government has decided schools will close. Did you see? Did you see? She squeaked down the phone. Brad wasn't anywhere near as excited as Poppy. What's wrong? I thought this would make you happy. We could play in the snow all day tomorrow. How much of the news did you see, Poppy? We'll be too busy to go outside and play, Brad questioned. Oh. Okay, that's a bit of a change. So I've decided to change from the plan a little bit, in which the man explains that all children will be given a job, and I've actually tried to incorporate a bit more speech, and it's actually Brad who's going to tell her. What are you talking about? Too busy? Yeah, we'll be far too busy working. The news said that schools will close so children can go to work and help fill all of the jobs they can't get people to do. How rubbish does that sound? I bet this has something to do with that goblet. You couldn't leave it alone, could you? So here we're building up character more. As you can see, Brad knows about Poppy's inquisitiveness and he's questioned her, and I think he knows that she's made a mistake. So how is Poppy going to react to this? Well, Brad needed no reply. The phone cut off and the sound of rushing feet filled Poppy's house. She quickly threw her wellies and coat on before charging wildly into the street. Desperately zigzagging through the children playing in the snow, she made her way back to school. Sure, the gates would still be open. The teachers can't have left yet, she thought to herself. She rounded the bend, and in that moment, her hope shattered. The car park was empty, the lights were off, and the gates were padlocked shut. A small notice was stuck to the gate. School will be closed for the foreseeable future. The wind let out a final howl and tore the notice from the gate. Poppy shivered. The wind felt colder than usual. So I've started with the wind, rustling outside and bringing the idea that something's going to change, and finished with the wind. I hope you can see from my story I've tried to build character, build events, use the power of 3 a lot, and use speech to progress events. So rather than just have a chat, they were talking to progress the event, and that's how Poppy found out that the wish had been made but gone wrong. So your aim today is to finish your story, and I want you to really use some of the ideas I've used, some of the one chance ones, and just follow the structure. But also I want it to be of a year 5 or year 6 standard, so you really have to push yourself with exciting vocabulary choices, exciting sentence structures, and just make sure it's of a quality that you are proud of. Now I hope you found this lesson useful. That is the end, because you're now going to go write, and remember to check your writing and edit it. I will hopefully see you soon. Thank you.